Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting. I would like to inform everyone that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. Thanks for that. I'd like to welcome those that are joined us in attendance, as well as those that are joining us virtually. Those of you that are with us in attendance, I would remind you and ask you to please put your communication devices on vibrate or shut them off, please. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi people, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe, the spirit of the land, water, air, that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I would ask you, for those that have a conflict of interest, to please declare it at the appropriate time. Council as well, a reminder for you to please speak up when responding to the questions or asking one. Some of our residents are unable to hear, and some of our councilors also have concerns about hearing as well. Okay, clerk will go to item number 4. We have a delegation this evening.
Correct. The Silver Spring subdivision representatives are here in attendance.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to welcome you. You have asked for delegation, so you have 15 minutes. Mr. Radcliffe, you've offered to be the spokesman for the group. So at the 10-minute mark, I'll be putting my hand up.
Won't go that long.
Okay. Council, so you're aware, this is Mr. Mike Radcliffe from the Silver Spring subdivision, and he has a presentation for us this evening.
Not much of a presentation, but just wanted to communicate with you folks. So thanks for having us. We've been in talks with your staff, and they've been working with us, and we're grateful for that, to just work on the complaint policy with the town and how it is addressed to us. So really it comes down to, this is a construction site. We all understand that, and we are being held to the same standards as every house in the tidy bylaw that you guys have. And we're just looking for maybe some alterations to it, or some grace, or just some sort of clarity. I know the town people, a lot of them dump on our lots. They dump pumpkins, yard waste, anything, and we really don't care, because it's a construction lot and we are about to dig it up and, build a house on it for 6 to 8 months and bring it back to, a normal yard, and sod it and grass it, and then it's going to be maintained. So we're just looking for some sort of work with council to try to address these issues, because this town seems to have a lot of complaints compared to all other towns that we've ever worked in, and we deal with them, and you guys, obviously staff deals with them daily, and we're just looking for some sort of help, I guess, to move forward, to keep this projects going, and to, keep us in this town to continue future projects. So we just figured there's nothing really in it for construction sites, and we thought, moving forward, we should look at it as something we could address as a group. So I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mike. Council's all had an opportunity, I believe, to review the letter that Mr. Radcliffe or his group, I can say, what was you, Mike, that did it?
No, it was actually Tina.
Okay.
I guess just one more point on that. Like, I think it was addressed, but we know we're the developer, and we're, a lot of people look at us as, change, and change isn't good for some people. And we understand that. And we try to be, we try to work with people. Having said that, we have driven through town, and there's so many places in town that, have weeds, that it's not a big deal, and it's not an issue. And no one's calling on that, but because it's in our subdivision and we're really wanted here by some people. We are repeatedly called to, clean up our site, which comparatively, it's a very clean site from a lot of other construction sites. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to compare us to other municipalities, other sites, but we actually have a very clean site. We just dealt with the water issue, putting Hickabottoms in all the lots. So we filled up all the lots to get rid of water at our expense, and now we're gonna have to dig it back up and get rid of it. So, we're doing that to, appease the town, which is good. Like, we want to help and we want to work with the town, but it's just, there are certain areas where it's like, okay, seems like enough's enough, like getting a call every week to a complaint all the time. So anyways, that's where we're at. So I'm open for any questions, and if there's anything that we can do as a group to work together.
I must share with you, I would be a little upset if somebody was dumping their garbage on my site, but
It happens not daily, but weekly for sure.
and we have several other contractors throughout our municipality, so we are familiar with that aspect as well. Is there anybody on council that has questions? As I said earlier, you have had an opportunity to read that letter, Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I agree to some extent that we shouldn't be holding construction properties to the same standards as a fully developed lot. It is a construction site. I know when I inquired not that long ago about a property standard for on behalf of a resident, I was told because it was under construction, it didn't fall under the same standards. So I'm not sure where the confusion is on this. And do we have any provisions in our existing bylaw? I mean, when you're dealing with raw like land that doesn't have vegetation on it, of course, drainage is going to act differently than if you had vegetation to help with that. And which I understand was one of the bigger problems at this point.
Mr. Sabansky.
Thank you, Your Worship. So to be clear, the tidy yards bylaw and the standards bylaw does not necessarily get into surface water drainage. It does get into surface water drainage in the sense of standing water and concentrating and directing water onto your neighbors, but it does not address sheet drainage. So sheet drainage issues that we've gotten phone calls about, because there is no bylaw that directly contributes to that. We do work through the subdivision agreement and the certified lot grading plan, but those certified lot grading plans are always being worked towards. And that's why you see the difference between the lot grading and the subdivision agreement. If someone had a house under construction and they had the eaves trough with a pipe going straight out to the neighbor's property, that portion of drainage is addressed under property standards. And as it sits today, if we got a complaint on that, we would issue orders right away. But there is a difference between that just general surface drainage, because we do not have a specific bylaw that address that. It's all under common law.
Thank you. I appreciate the differences of what you're saying. But we do need some sort of provision when it comes to construction lots versus developed lots. I mean, because obviously you're just gonna have different problems. Drainage being one of them. You've got just dirt, you don't have any vegetation. So.
Councilor Basie.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. Is not most of this that we're reading about in the subdivision agreement? Is that where it's being enforced, or?
So the subdivision agreement does enforce certain aspects, but it doesn't get necessarily into height of weeds or standing of water in as detailed as the property standards bylaw does. And that's why when we get a complaint about standing water development or a fully developed property, or we get a phone call about tall weeds, it does fall upon the property standards bylaw more so than the subdivision agreement.
Is it something we should be putting in our agreements? Clarify it? Like,
You could not put something
But
in
it
your
sounds-
subdivision agreement that contradicts you would not be able to put something in your subdivision agreement that contradicts the property standards bylaw without amending the property standards bylaw accordingly.
So then should we be incorporating that bylaw into our subdivision agreements?
You can always reference other bylaws in your subdivision agreements. It's as simple as putting a note in there that all lot grading or property maintenance shall be as per property standards bylaw, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that is an easy clause that could be put into subdivision agreements to make sure the developers are aware of the local standards prior to starting construction. We could also include it with building permits if that, or at least a reference to it, to building permits, if that is what the council would prefer moving forward.
Bojan?
Nothing to add right now, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go to, you've had one, I'm gonna come back to you. Thing on this side.
Sorry, I thought you were.
Thank you. As you can see, we get the complaints before you get the complaints. So I'm assuming that most of the time you're getting the complaints coming through this office. Correct. And over time, and by the way, thanks for your letter, because I think this is the way to do it. You got these issues, you got these complaints, get together and try to get it resolved, so. But I know for a fact, there's been several issues over in your subdivision that in my opinion, would totally out of control. I remember the one time over there, the road, there was so much mud in them roads. And it was so dusty and dirty, you know, I appreciate construction sites, I've worked there before, but. You know, I was surprised we weren't getting a lot more complaints because, you know, you want to build those houses, and you want to sell them as quick as you can. And, you know, your subdivision was filling up pretty good as you were building those houses. So those people, I don't know how they live sometimes in the situation that I seen over there for just dust, you know. And I know we had a huge storm here that washed a lot of them lawns out right onto the road and, you know, that, you know, that's not really your fault that happened, but, and I know I've been getting, lots of complaints, especially from the people that have joined your new subdivision and from the basements and the land that you cleared, you know, to build your basements and, you know, they're down, I suppose, 1.5 feet or 2 feet and water laying there in the weeds. And I know that's where I've been getting some complaints from them adjoining properties. And from what I was told several times, certainly by one property owner, that they weren't getting any satisfaction, that the weeds just kept growing and growing and growing. I'm surprised that individual's not here tonight. So I can certainly see, you know, if you're gonna live in your new modern neighborhood with all brand new homes, you know, the people living there themselves, never mind the adjoining properties, some of the stuff they have to put up with is, yeah, like I know my wife has always said to me, we would never move into a subdivision that's being built. So I understand the issues that go on during construction, but I think all we ask here as a council is that, you know, we do our best to try to avoid those kind of situations. And I know that through complaints you've put street cleaners in there. I've seen you with the bobcats taking the mud off the roads after these big events and stuff like that. But like I say, we get a lot of complaints that come through here, they go to you, so I think we need to zero in on those complaints and find out like where are they coming from, and is it a common problem with just certain properties, and what can we do to resolve it? Rather than you know, we don't want you guys to feel like, you know, you're in here building in our community and we appreciate that. And so we just want to get it solved and deal with the people that have the issues. And I don't know how many that is, like, I don't have a number. I mean, you said there's lots of complaints coming in, like you're saying.
We're getting a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
And it's just, we'll never be told who it's from, but,
You know, that, yeah.
and,
I'm confident.
but again, like we've been doing this a long time and we've been doing this in a lot of communities. This is the only community we are getting ambushed with complaints. And so it's,
From within, you don't mind me asking, like,
we don't know.
oh, yeah,
No, like we're getting them from Josh Booth. He sends the complaints to us, but they come through Adam or whatever. I don't know.
okay, yeah,
He doesn't speak here.
yeah, I just not.
And we're out there cleaning the roads, you know, like can't clean it 24/7, but you know, we're doing it on a timely matter. Like, yeah, there's gonna be situations in the spring and when it's muddy and we're digging holes and machines are coming and going, but right now it seems to be more the weeds. That is the issue. And You know, we understand that maybe, you know, direct houses, but in the middle of nowhere, you know, backing onto agricultural land, you know, I guess we just question it. It's almost like, you know, we're getting complaints just to complain. Again, I'm not gonna point fingers, but we have driven around Wyoming and there are a ton of weeds in areas. We're not gonna call to complain about them, but we're just like, it's almost like we're being directed at us for sure.
Well, like I say, I'll just close by saying, appreciate your letter, appreciate you coming here, because this is the way to deal with it. Let's get our heads together and find out what we can do to resolve these issues, or, you know, I do notice that you filled in some of those foundations over there, which, you know, I don't know if things have slowed down to that point, I suppose, and, you know, I guess you can't leave them for years full of water, but you're resolving that also.
Yeah, we have most of the water situation, like obviously on a heavy rain day, there's gonna be water laying around, you know, laying around in the parks. It's everywhere in Wyoming, right? So it's not just vacant land that's gonna be developed, so.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Van Cleven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you folks are here. I've got family living in your subdivision and they're quite enjoying it. For me, it may be along the same lines as Councillor Wolvette is the complaints themselves. If I'd like to think Plympton-Wyoming is the friendliest spot in Ontario. But we also have probably higher standards than some, but I'm wondering if the complaints that if we're getting multiple complaints from a minimum of residents. I don't know if anybody could tell me that.
Not in this forum,
Okay, gotcha.
but
Fair
we
enough.
have gotten multiple complaints from multiple property owners.
Okay. And maybe just one other little thing, in regards to other properties in the municipality, we don't know in this forum if they're also getting lots of complaints. I don't know that. So if that makes you
It
feel,
doesn't bother us, like it's not hurting anything, and I can see the weeds against fences where it's not affecting anyone, so why, it's not like, just like our weeds against a farmland. Not touching anyone's house, shouldn't be a big deal, but it is, so.
well, you are kind of visible
Yeah.
and you are the new guys in town. And you're more than just a mom and pop operation. And sometimes that comes with a bit of a target. It just kind of does. And
For sure.
so,
That's why we're here.
yeah. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Counselor Van Cleven. Deputy.
Yeah, I don't think I can add much more than what Councillor Bob and Councillor John have said. Can't remember their last names all the time, no? So it's just that I hope that, you know, when you do get any kind of notice from our CAO or the property standards or building officials, that you comply with them. That's what you've been trying to do, I think.
Yeah, we just worked on a new format, which is gonna help us, because, you know, sometimes they'll come to me and then at the end it'll go to the builder that has the actual lot and it'll be like a fix this in 2 days or else type of thing. And so now we've agreed how to handle it. So I think we're satisfied with that. And
So
our intention is to, you know, to work, you know, keep us clean subdivision, and if there is a complaint, we even would love to address it with the homeowner, but that opportunity hasn't come. We have done that in the past, whether they want to talk to us or not. We've always tried to work with people.
yeah, it almost took better that, yeah.
It hasn't, it hasn't.
Now it hasn't, on occasion, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, that's, no more.
Thank you, Deputy. Back to you, Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question. You were stating that to put property standards in a subdivision agreement, that's the only way to better inform, I guess. But you would have to make revisions to the tidy yard bylaw to be able to put it in.
To put provisions for weed control or standing water control in the subdivision agreement that is different than what's in the tidy yards bylaw would require amendments to that bylaw to allow us to do so. To simply just place a clause in the subdivision agreement referring builders and developers back to the bylaw would require no changes as it sits today.
And it sounds like there's no desire to put in some sort of different provisions for construction sites than a fully developed lot.
I haven't been given direction to do so. That would be a direction of council to have to do that.
She's asking if you can.
Well, I assume that your answer is that you would have to put in a motion to ask for that.
Yes, I would need a motion to council to look at amending, or at least looking at bringing back a report to suggest potential amendments. Before I would even go down that road.
Kind of like that last comment about a report. I think we've had a lot of good information. I think we've had good discussion. I think we need to digest this a little bit longer. So, council, would you be receptive if we asked staff to put together a report and come back to us so with the options of what that we could move forward on this? Councilor Basie?
Well, the report, I was just gonna say, if we could have a report on like the complaints and whatnot that we're not aware of. That we could, like I say,
Build.
yeah, the.
Well, I think
Type of complaints, where they're coming from, like I say, if it's
So
targeted, because it's costing us money too.
two separate.
That goes out,
reports then.
costing us time.
So we cannot get into details about complaints, where they came from, et cetera, and open necessarily.
I understand that,
So we would be looking at two different reports. And I can confirm that our developers here today are not the only developers in Plympton-Wyoming who receive complaints.
that's kind of thing.
We did get complaints about Arrow Woods Phase 2. And those builders were sent out bylaw infraction notices and were billed for the cleanup. So the community is not necessarily targeting these developers, but it does occur on other sites that we have in town as well.
Thank you.
So going back to my suggestion, council, would you be receptive to having staff? If we table this, have staff come back with a report? With that,
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think what Adam just said is that, Mr. Radcliffe, your subdivision is not the only one that we've heard complaints about, and the other thing that we're not aware of all these complaints ourselves, because as Adam said, these are confidential complaints, so counselors, unless it comes to something like this. Matter of fact, I wouldn't know how many complaints went against your subdivision. I haven't got a clue. So we need some guidelines there to say, if you're getting a whole bunch of complaints about something, whatever it is, you better be addressed if it's not being addressed by whatever the subdivision is. So we need something a little more so that we know what's going on, what complaints, how many, is this a big issue or is it not a big issue? Because we don't have that kind of information to address you. And that's why it's good that you're here. So, yeah, I think some kind of report that would resolve some of this stuff and how these complaints are going to come in and who they're going to go to and how they're going to be dealt with. Yeah.
That's all been addressed. We are going to proceed directly through bylaw enforcement moving forward. A lot of the communication errors were that Public Works would attempt to work with the developer to address the complaint directly. Communications would get missed, and then suddenly we would have to move to bylaw enforcement. And then when bylaw enforcement moves in, the builders are getting notice on very short order. And that's what caused some of the confusion. So we're rectifying that by going straight to bylaw enforcement, and bylaw enforcement will implement their process as they usually would. Where up until this date, we've been using a more unofficial process to try to work with the developers to move things along. But unfortunately, it just ended up to the point where we are now. So we're just it's better to follow the official process, and that way Corinne and the building department can work with the individual builders more directly to resolve the situation.
So just to follow up on that, so the complainant's going to come to you and then you're going to pass it on to Corinne?
Immediately, we would pass it on to bylaw
And
enforcement.
it'll be
Yes.
dealt with through them. So we as a council still would not know how many complaints or what complaints or anything that's going into any, whatever subdivision it is, we wouldn't have that information that there's a big issue?
it's not typically information that we provide. We can always provide it to council, but it's not information we've necessarily provided in the past, providing how many complaints we get on a certain topic for a certain area.
We're usually the ones in the end. That take the heat. The elected officials, and our phones are the ones that are ringing off the hook, as there's several counselors here come in this room and say, we've heard these complaints, so. Anyway, a report of some kind, so we can discuss it to try to solve it.
Because now we're talking two different reports.
Okay, let's, council, let's go back a step here. I want to, my initial comment was a report by staff to come back to council referring to items even relating to like our tidy lot, yard bylaw, if there could be anything done with that. So I will take a motion if somebody making that motion. Councilor Rodriguez, will there be a seconder for that motion? Councilor Basie. So we'll get that on the book so then staff has an opportunity to prepare something, bring it back to us. Council comfortable with that?
Can I ask a question before this?
Deputy?
So we're gonna have a report on tidy yards bed. Right? And I'm not sure what that's going to reveal. Like, has it got something to do with this?
From the guys of the conversation, if I will, sorry, your worship, it would be a report on options to look at ways to work with the builders to change how subdivision agreements and the tidy yards
So
and
that
property
would-
standards bylaw interact.
That would be just in tidy yards bylaw, then not in the development agreement.
They would work together. You'd have to do them together. So we're bringing back how those two documents can work together.
Okay.
It'd be anywhere from options to leave as is, to increase education, or to both documents to
Okay.
provide relief, if you will, but that's to be determined by council.
Okay, council have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez, second by Councilor Basie, that staff be directed to prepare a report regarding tiny yards and show how they interact with subdivision agreements and options to move forward. Also comfortable with that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Thank you. Okay, council, let's go to item number 5 on the agenda.
Thank you.
Business arising from previous meetings. Clerk, do we have anything relating to planning under that?
Nothing at this time, your worship.
Okay, let's go to item 6, staff reports. Anything under that?
Nothing at this time, your worship.
Okay, item 7, bylaws.
Nothing at this time.
All right, correspondence.
No action required correspondence at this time.
All right, council, let's go to 9.1. I have a motion by Councilor Wolf, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the correspondence items A to C relating to recommended reading, routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the council and filed accordingly. Council, that's items A to C. Is there anything that you want to discuss or pull out? Councilor Bojan?
Your worship, I don't necessarily need to pull it out. I just want to, item C, I just want to ask through you to Mr. Stefanski. There's a lot of stuff in it that's obviously I'm not well versed in when it comes to another municipality. I just want to make sure, because I know we applied to the accelerator, and we're working to have that. To make sure we avoid any circumstances like this, that we're working with, speaking of developers, the one building these houses that we want houses to be built for. I just want to make sure we're working closely with them to make sure we don't run into any potential issues that Sarnia seems to be might.
So thank you, Councillor Bojan. So yes, as part of my Housing Accelerator Fund application process, I met individually with every developer, including Mr. Radcliffe and his builders, to look at what lands they currently are developing, what lands they plan to develop in the future. And we looked at where the missing middle housing could be incorporated into those plans, or even affordable housing. They all felt that if the Housing Accelerator funds were to become available and those funds were able to be used for assisting with carrying forward some of the planning applications on those projects, that they'd be more than willing to commit to a certain level of affordable housing moving forward. So because we have done those consultations with the builders and developers, that don't necessarily see an issue arising per se. But there would have some details to be worked out once we get the funds.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you. So just in relation to item C, that has to do with lands that are currently in I don't know if they're in an official appeal process or in a battleground situation over in Brights Grove there.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what they'd have to do with this accelerator. That's where I'm kind of.
So reading and can fill it in, but my understanding of is that City of Sarnia has attempted to bring these lands into their settlement area. And they're hoping to utilize the accelerator funds to push that area in. As many municipalities looking to do, but Mr. Melanson might have more information.
So through your worship, there's the term accelerator is being used in two different ways. There's what this letter refers to, which is a community infrastructure and housing accelerator, which was added into the Planning Act through Bill 109. Then there's what Mr. Sabansky is referring to, which is the housing accelerator funding, which the federal government is offering, which is a completely different thing. I'm mindful that this is a matter that's under appeal to the OLT, but I'll explain it in a broad term. A CIA, the CIHA, is a tool that was added by the provincial government through the Planning Act updates in Bill 109 that essentially it gives the municipality the opportunity to submit an application to the minister direct to make changes to official plan or a zoning bylaw. And that decision is made by the minister. So if I am a landowner, I could come to this council and say, I would like you, the town of Plympton-Wyoming, to do a CIA application for my site to get me through an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. You would then be the applicant to the ministry. In simple terms, it's basically an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment that then goes up to the ministry for an evaluation. But you become the applicants. It then needs to be scoped because you still need to meet all of the provincial policy framework that a normal process would have to meet. So you may require a planning justification report, you may require an EIS, you may require a whole bunch of different things. At the end of the day, the town does the community engagement. The town has to pass a motion to endorse the CIA moving forward, and then it goes to the ministry. They then do their own evaluation and then make a recommendation to the minister. The minister's decision is final. It's not appealable. So in essence, it's taking an OPA and a zoning bylaw amendment, which can be appealed through the town, and sending it up to the ministry and saying, you make the decision. The CIA application that the city of Sarnia is making has the power to override the county's official plan as well. Because the way that the tool is written is that it deems the application to conform, is the technical term. Simply speaking, it just amends all of the plans involved. So it is a powerful tool. My last count is it's been used 3, maybe 5 times. Sarnia being possibly number 2 or 3 in utilizing it. But it does put the municipality as the applicant and puts all the risk on the town or township involved.
So because this is, they can still.
I didn't hear the question.
So because this is under appeal, they're still able to do this process in tandem, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Hearing nothing further on that one, then we'll call for the vote. All those, oh, sorry. Motion by Counselor Wolvett, seconded by Counselor Van Claveren, that the correspondence A to C related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 10, new business relating to planning. Counselor Bojan,
For me, thank you.
Counselor Basie, Counselor Rodriguez, Deputy Van Claveren.
Thank you, sir.
Counselor Wolvett. Hear that item closed. Okay, council, we'll go to item number 11, closed meeting session. I have a motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Basie. The council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, amended for the following reasons. Items A and B, personal matters. That's section 239(2) personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All those in favor? Carries. We're going into camera. Those that are joining with us virtually, we thank you for your attendance. And we're being camera and return after to shut down for the evening.